Hi everyone, this is Elaine, your detox coach, and I'm going to use the next hour or so to discuss my latest group, my latest detox group, and the conditions they listed on their registration forms. I love doing these kind of conversations because it gives me time to speak about all these different things that can happen in a human's life. So, the idea behind this would be to reveal to you what the underlying cause is of disease, of any disease really, and to just help you to wrap your head around your specific condition and makeup, and where you need to focus as you focus on this healing journey of yours. Remember that all diseases sprout from wastes and toxins being accumulated in our inner environment. These are usually highly acidic, and acids are corrosive. It burns, it makes things stick together, like nutrients and that would stick together, which makes it impossible for the cells to eat. Tissue would start being welded together, which happens with endometriosis and fibromyalgia, is that tissues are becoming so acidic they start sticking to each other, like being super glued together. And this really has a lot of cascading effects, and specifically pain that plays a big role there. So you don't want to be acidic in the inside. If you look at a healthy biome on our planet, you won't find a biome that is healthy and balanced that is acidic. It will always be more alkaline than acidic. We can't eliminate the acids completely. Acids always make up like 20 to 25% of a healthy biome or a healthy environment, be it an inner environment or outer environment. If you look at our periodic table, we sit with the same kind of relationship. So we want to keep this homeostasis of acidity and alkalinity at all times if we want to be healthy. And this is where we're going to have to get to. So when you join my detoxes, you'll learn a lot about the chemistry of food, the acidity, alkalinity before digestion, after digestion, the ash that is left, and the actual acid or alkaline digestive process that is instigated, and all the results coming from that. So this is how you learn how to apply your daily intake of food to such a way that you keep this homeostasis of alkalinity. And of course, to get to that homeostasis, we call it detoxing. And this is the process you're going to go through, where you're going to experience healing events, where your bodies actually start purging all this waste containing lymphatic fluid from the body, from all cavities and elimination organs, your skin, your bowel, your kidneys, your lungs, your cavities over here. So this is the process of healing. If we want to regenerate on a cellular level, we want to alkalize, detoxify, and energize. So keeping this in mind, we're not going to go into detail of any of that now. I really just want to keep this to discussion of the conditions. So now we've already mentioned that all disease sprout from a congested lymphatic fluid. So you must realize that there's a big category here that all diseases falls into. Then some diseases are specifically related directly to the fact that our lymphatic fluid is congested and acidic, and then others are indirectly related to certain glands being down and being over congested and acidic, and their functions now not fully happening, and this now creating a cascade of different events. This is really making things very simplistic. You can go into it in detail and it become quite intricate, so I don't want to take a very complex situation and not give it the credit it deserves. But there's always this simplified foundation in the complex structure that when you get your head around that, it really helps to navigate your way through all of this. So let's start with conditions directly related to a congested lymphatic system, which means the lymphatic fluid that makes up 80% of the fluid in your body is acidic, and it's not leaving your body successfully. The only elimination channels for this lymphatic fluid naturally is your kidneys, your skin, and 20% of it go through your bowel. Then there's other channels that your body would also utilize, which would be your lungs and your head through your cavities, which are not ideal places to eliminate, but it can be used for that. So conditions directly related to it. HIV, definitely directly related to it. This is a autoimmune disease. Now, what would make anything an autoimmune disease is if your immune system is not able to respond and rectify it. So many diseases, man-made diseases, falls into this category. And this is in direct relation to a lymphatic fluid that is congested and acidic, constipated, and is not able to leave the body successfully. Tonsils, people that have removed their tonsils, this is two of your huge septic tanks for your headspace. Especially there's a huge repercussion of removing your tonsils, and the reason these tonsils would become inflamed and give the doctors reason enough to remove it is because your lymphatic fluid is so acidic that it is actually creating infection and inflammation in those septic tanks. So if your septic tank is not working at home, are you going to come get someone to remove it and just think everything is sorted now? Now everything is fine. The septic tank doesn't exist anymore, so I'll be fine. You're not going to be fine. What's going to be happening to all the wastes of your household? It's just going to either sit in your bathroom and accumulate there, or somewhere in your garden and accumulate there. And this is not something you want, right? So the whole philosophy behind removing septic tanks in our body is just mind-blowing. It's ridiculous to consider that they think this is a solution. When you remove your tonsils, there's a double whammy thing that happens. Firstly, the lymphatic fluid in your headspace do not clear as it would have having the tonsils. There will always be more accumulation happening there because these tonsils are not there to deal with it. Secondly, instead of the lymphatic fluid neatly moving from the lymphatic glands around your ears into the tonsils and through to the, it's got this beautiful lymphatic path that it follows in your body. Now it's just going to cascade down your throat and your neck area. So you have some people that sits with really deteriorating throat elements like your thyroid and your vocal cords and larynx and pharynx and all of these. Or you sit with people that's really stiff in their shoulders because now the acids are running down here. Or you sit with people that has deteriorating spine, neck in the neck here, and your C vertebrae, and they start deteriorating and becoming weak. So somewhere this disbalance is going to now influence you when your tonsils have been removed. Appendix removed, exactly the same thing. The appendix is the septic tank for your colon. So now your colon became so toxified that the appendix either burst or became inflamed or was so congested that the doctors decided, let's just remove it and just pretend everything is fine. So what happens now, this has shown you already that your lifestyle and your genetics at that stage was already so weak and so not life-giving that it actually rendered your intestines in a really bad condition with a lot of accumulated toxins that they sent to the appendix to deal with, because our septic tanks like the appendix and the tonsils and all our lymph nodes contain bacterium to deal with lymphatic fluid. So this is the natural order of the day of the body, is that these septic tanks have bacterium, which is the carnivores in our body, and it deals with this lymphatic fluid containing all these wastes and acids. Now you remove these septic tanks, and now that organs are having to deal with all these toxins because your lifestyle most probably have not changed. You are not detoxing and getting rid of the toxins, so this accumulation is continuing, and now if your appendix is removed that all this accumulation is now in your colon, in your intestines, bringing havoc there even faster than it would have. Parasites, sitting with accumulation of parasites is completely a lymphatic situation. If your body was completely healthy and alkaline in the inner environment, even if parasites externally enters your body, it would simply eliminate the parasites. This is how your body was designed to work if it worked fully like it was supposed to work. So if your kidneys and your skin are filtering the lymphatic fluid, and the lymphatic fluid is alkaline and moving, and foreign parasites and particles are entering your body, the combination between the lymphatic response and the immune response would be of such a nature that it's either getting killed or it's getting expelled. So if you're sitting with a kind of parasite infiltration, like bilharzia is a very good example, then it is because your system is too stagnant to rid yourself of those. We do make use of parasites to help the system to rid itself of these parasites, but even if you do use herbs to support you with that, but your system is not in a flowing place, there's many parasites that actually won't dislodge and will be able to survive somewhere in your body. Leukemia, cancers, low blood production, tumors, this is directly related to the lymphatic fluid. So leukemia is specifically when the spleen is overcongested and cannot fully function anymore. So it cannot serve your blood. It cannot clean and replenish your blood. It doesn't have a place for the blood to mature and to be regenerated. This is what the spleen does specifically. If your bone marrow becomes, or your body becomes so weak that it doesn't deliver enough nutrients so that your bone marrow can keep on regenerating and producing itself, it's going to grow weaker and weaker and will not be able to do the blood production as it should to keep you in a balanced state. Cancer itself is a patented word. We're not actually allowed to use it, and technically it is a man-made word to describe dying cells. So this is when the acidic lymphatic fluid that surrounds every cell in your body becomes so acidic that it actually, the acidity permeates the membranes of the cell, and the inside of the cell is now becoming acidic. And this is what a cancer cell is. It's basically a dying cell. So you can decide now if you want to go the route of killing your cells that is dying with chemotherapy, which is more acids, and radiation, which is more acids, or if you're going to actually detoxify, alkalize, and energize, and those that's too weak to be regenerated will be eliminated by the body in any case, and those that is strong enough to be regenerated will simply be regenerated. And that's how you get rid of cancer. Tumors are the same thing. Tumors is your body's way of supporting or surviving the interstitial acidosis that is settled in your lymphatic fluid. So now it creates a holding bag for acids. So the last thing you want to do is want doctors to poke and prick the holding bag so that this is now all exiting into the body again. Yeah, sure, tumors bring damage. You don't want to live with a tumor. I'm not saying we don't want to get rid of the tumor, but prodding it to find out if it's cancerous is like, why? Regardless if it's cancerous or not, you want to get rid of the tumor, right? And how do you do that? You alkalize, detoxify, and energize, and your body will come back into homeostasis. Dry eyes, this is the lymph in your eye that is hydrated. So now you know what the rest of the lymph in your head space look like if the lymph in your eye is dehydrated. So you need to hydrate on a cellular level, and you can't do this with water. Yes, water is important. It's got a role to play. I'm not saying don't drink water, but water doesn't hydrate you on a cellular level. What hydrates you on a cellular level is the correct nutrition and wastes being removed. Acids are very dehydrating. It's when your lymph is alkalized, you'll get the thin flowy snot that comes from your nose that's watery. That is what an alkalized lymph look like. If it becomes drier, it goes more sticky, that yellow stuff, and then it goes that really green like sticky stuff, and then it goes completely dried out. The dry snot you get in your nose, that is what dehydrated lymph starts looking like. So if you've got dry eyes, you must know that yes, you can treat it. You can do eye washing with a healing tea, that kind of thing can treat it, but you will only heal it by hydrating on a cellular level, by detoxifying and alkalizing yourself. The reason the thyroid and the adrenals are not functioning, the reason any organ or gland in your body is not functioning fully, is because they are cellularly constipated. In between each cell, they are so congested with lymphatic fluid that contains their own wastes that hasn't been removed successfully, that the cells, now you know what a baby's bottom look like, you know how it goes raw because of a nappy not being changed quickly enough. This is what happens to our cell membranes. They really become corroded, and they're burning, and they become raw, and they then can't function as they should. So any organ or gland that is malfunctioning, like we mentioned the spleen before, would be because of the lymphatic fluid surrounding its cells that is actually prohibiting it from fully functioning. Cellulite, any skin condition, including cellulite just under the skin, has to do with the lymph in the skin, and or just underneath the skin, and it means the lymph is acidic, congested, and it's influencing the actual skin itself as an organ. Bloating has to do with the digestive organs not being able to function well, most specifically the pancreas most of the time. Could also be the small intestines being so inflamed that you feel bloated and you look bloated. You can actually see the swelling. So that has to do with your digestive process not being able to fully function because it is completely constipated with acidic lymphatic fluid. Diabetes, one classic lymphatic situation. It could be a nervous system situation as well. It's hard to tell between the two, but it boils down to the islets of Langerhans that is on the pancreas that is supposed to produce the insulin for you to make use of glucose in the body. They're either so congested that they can't fully function, or the nervous systems, the nerve cells in them are broken and actually can't perform as it should. Nerve brings the movement to the cell. The nervous system brings the movement to the cell. So every movement that happens in your body, be it a systemic movement like your bowel movement or like breathing, being a cellular movement like the islets of Langerhans, the cells actually producing insulin, the adrenals actually producing neurotransmitters. This could all be actually a nervous system that is not fully functioning, which means the nervous system, the cells of the nervous system is congested and not receiving nutrients to regenerate fully. Or then the adrenals are so low in functioning, it's not producing enough neurotransmitters, which is the neurotransmitters are for the nervous system what the blood is for the circulatory system. There's no movement, there's no flow in the nervous system if there's not enough neurotransmitters. So that boils down to the adrenals as well. So let's look at the other, let's look at weak adrenals and weak thyroid, speak a little bit about the weak nervous system, and then I just want to wrap it all up by using some examples where they all play a role in certain conditions. So adrenals. If you suffer with anxiety, this is a very, very clear low functioning adrenal symptom. You're sitting with anxiety, the reason being you don't have enough of those neurotransmitters. Your nervous system is not a strong and resilient nervous system, and it cannot perform or respond as you would want it to respond to the world around you, and this makes you anxious and not fully capable of responding well. Polycystic ovary syndrome has direct relation with the lymphatic fluid first and foremost. The lymphatic fluid around the ovaries and in the reproductive areas are congested, and it's making small little tumors, which is the cysts, small little tumors that is being formed. This has a lot to do with low functioning adrenals as well, because adrenals also produce steroids. Adrenals produce 4 things: steroids, neurotransmitters, enzymes, and hormones. All 4 extremely important for the chemistry of the body and the responding of the body to the different functions that is needed. Steroids are produced to combat inflammation. So if you had a very strong adrenal that wasn't congested and fully functioning, you probably wouldn't have sat with the cysts, even if your lymphatic fluid is not hundreds, because the steroids would have been enough to deal with the inflammation, and it would have prevented the cysts. That's why it's also related to the adrenals, but it's also directly related to the lymphatic. Diabetes 2 is directly related to the adrenals, indirectly related to the lymphatic. So diabetes 2 is all about a low functioning adrenal that are not producing enough steroids to deal with excess simple sugars, never mind complex sugars. So if you are, for instance, if you are in a place where your adrenals are extremely low and you start eating fruit only, you will even, there's a possibility that even that simple sugar could be too much for your adrenals and the level of your steroids to deal with. Never mind complex sugars like the sugars coming off starches and grains, your actual complex sugars, your drinks and your sweets and that. You know, these sugars are even worse and it needs much more steroids for the steroids to deal with it. And if you're sitting with a low functioning adrenal, you won't have enough of that. And you will have this problem that you then have high blood sugar or then low blood sugar, depending where your body is at. Vitality, energy is absolutely, there's two direct energy centers in your body, which is the thyroid and the adrenals. The thyroid, because it regulates the temperature in your body, that has a lot to do with how much of the enzyme functionings are happening successfully or not, and how much your body is losing energy to combat the inflammation sprouting from an overheated system. So that's a direct energy center. And then adrenals are a direct energy center because it works a lot on the metabolization of minerals. It produces, remember, one of the four chemicals that the adrenals are producing, one is enzymes. Now, enzymes are needed for the utilization of minerals. The adrenals produce up to 52 enzymes for the utilization of up to 52 different minerals. This would include minerals like magnesium, manganese, iron, zinc, copper. Many of these minerals are directly related to chronic fatigue if there's a deficiency in them. And the reason there's a deficiency in them is because your adrenals are not performing well enough to produce enough of these enzymes. So for instance, if I'm a cell in the body, I'm a kidney cell, I want iron, I want copper, and I want calcium to build my structure so that I can be robust and dynamic and energy again. When the chemistry in the blood comes through, I'm going to be on the lookout for two enzymes coming from the adrenals to do the copper and the iron. As soon as I see those enzymes, I'm pulling it to myself, and it sits as antennas on my membrane, so that when the food does come around, the nutrition come around, it will actually be pulled into my constituency. I would do the same for calcium, but this time it's not adrenal based, it is parathyroid hormone based. So this is a hormone produced by the parathyroids, which is sitting onto the thyroids. We'll speak more on that when we get to the thyroid. So if I want calcium, I need this parathyroid hormone as an antenna. Now my host eats. I'm the host of 100 trillion cells. I eat food. It's digested, hopefully. It's absorbed, hopefully. And now it's into the blood and it's swimming past the cells. As soon as it swims past the cell, the two enzymes for iron and copper works like magnets, pulling the iron and copper to the cell and into the cell. But imagine there's not enough parathyroid hormone, so you never got the parathyroid hormone, and this calcium comes around and swims right past the cell, and the cell actually cannot utilize the calcium. This is a big reason why we sit with chronic fatigue and indirectly then lack in vitality. Also, the neurotransmitters that the adrenals produce, adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, just to mention a few, dopamine especially playing a huge role in providing energy for the body, being a neurotransmitter. So if the adrenals cannot produce enough neurotransmitters, there's also this lack in vitality that steps in. High or low blood pressure, directly related to the adrenals. The top reading of the blood pressure, the systolic reading, is showing you the functioning of your adrenals or the congestion of your adrenals. And the bottom reading, the diastolic reading, shows you the functioning or congestion of your kidneys. So if you're sitting with a low blood pressure, you've got low neurotransmitters, which means low adrenal function. If you're sitting with a high blood pressure, 80% of the time, it means you used to have a low blood pressure for such a long time, your body overcompensated for low steroid functioning, of steroids production, by producing cholesterol and leaching calcium from the system and plaquing the body with it, which now congests the body into a higher blood pressure. Most of the time is that. Other blood pressures, high blood pressures or fluctuating blood pressures, has to do with the cerebellum and the ability of the cerebellum to perform optimally. Cholesterol, I just mentioned that a little bit. The liver would actually start producing more cholesterol to combat acidosis, interstitial constipation, especially if there's not enough steroids going around to combat this inflammation, which is another word for it. So, and this cholesterol plaquing then later on becomes the problem, because the body doesn't stop producing cholesterol if the need is there to combat the acidosis. And the cholesterol becomes more and more and more, congesting the cavities and then creating high blood pressure. Asthma, you could sit with weak lung cells, which is a lymphatic condition, also maybe coming as a genetic condition that can be healed. But many of the times it has to do with the adrenals, because there's not enough neurotransmitters. The nervous system actually becomes weak, and the parasympathetic nervous system are the one that is the part of the automatic nervous system that look at the functioning of breathing, of the heartbeat, of swallowing. All your automatic kind of responses happens through the parasympathetic nervous system. And if there's not enough neurotransmitters, this system becomes weaker and weaker, and you will sit with something like asthma. Burning feet, numbness in the hands, all of this has to do with the nervous system, and this then indirectly has to do with low adrenal function and lymphatic fluid. So the nervous system is either genetically weak, or it's weakened by a congested lymphatic system that is actually burning and hurting the cells of the nervous system. And then the third one is there's not enough neurotransmitters produced by the adrenals to service the nervous system, and that also then renders it weak. Let's look at conditions connected to a weak thyroid / parathyroid. They've got quite distinct functionings, and it's quite funny how the parathyroid are almost never mentioned in mainstream medicine. Parathyroid is probably your fountain of youth in a way, because if you cannot utilize calcium, your body is deteriorating. Your skin will grow old, your bones will become porous and not dense enough, your connective tissue will be weak, you'll have vericose veins, you'll have things like hemorrhoids, hernias, stretch marks, cellulite, osteoporosis, heart disease. Heart disease many times are nothing to do with the strength of the heart itself. It actually has to do with the cells of the heart, which is such a, the heart being a pump, it's got so many moving parts in that organ that if you're sitting with a deficiency in calcium, all the connective tissue that makes up this pumping heart becomes weaker, and that's why you will start having heart failure and that. But it's actually nothing to do with the genetically weak heart. It had more to do with genetically weak parathyroids and congested parathyroids to such a degree that your body cannot utilize calcium to regenerate the parts of the heart that needs to be strong while it's doing its daily heartbeats. I mentioned hemorrhoids, the varicose veins, the hernias. This is all to do with weak tissue, weak cells, weak connective tissues that lack in the necessary calcium to be strong. And this is within why it is there. Other stuff directly related to the thyroid is man-named diseases that is called Hashimotos, which is basically a hypothyroidism, and then Graves' disease, which is a name given to a bunch of symptoms that clearly shows to weak adrenals and weak thyroid. So you are the one that decide if you want to keep that diseases and hang it around your neck because it was given to you and you make it yours, or if you're going to take it off and let it go because it doesn't exist. What does exist is a congested lymphatic fluid and interstitial constipation, over-inflammation of the body. This is all the same thing. Thinning hair also has to do with your calcium intake and the ability of your body to actually grow hair. This also has to do with your head space. If your head space are overly congested, the soil of your hair becomes acidic, and this is why you'll have balding and thinning hair. So it will boil down to having to drain the lymphatic fluid in your head space, and to actually bring nutrients into the headspace so that those cells can regenerate themselves. So this is basically all of the conditions listed on this group. Let's talk about underweight. Many of us on the group are sitting with the crisis of actually being underweight, and they are quite wary on journeying on this fruit-based diet because they feel they're going to get even skinnier, which is true. When you embark on a fruit-only diet, you are detoxing. So you will be eliminating cups full of lymph that all carried a weight, and it all added to you looking fuller. So this is the first thing that's going to leave your body. Whatever stored fats that's not needed will be leaving the body. And whatever has been built on extreme acidosis will be leaving the body. You will not lose muscle weight on a fruit diet. There's no way. There's actually proof. There's people that detoxed with me before. They owned a gym. They had ways of testing their muscle density, and within 2 weeks of on the fruit diet with no exercising, their muscle density actually grew. So there's actually real-time evidence that the opposite happened with your muscles. But why are you underweight? We are a food processor, right? I am the host of 100 trillion cells, and I've got a food processing process that happens so that when I eat, this food is actually broken down, digested, hopefully successfully, then it's absorbed, hopefully successfully, and then there's enough chemistry, enzymes in the blood for it to be utilized, which means the cell can actually pull it into itself successfully. If those three things doesn't work, there's a very good chance that the fourth element of the food processing machine, which is elimination, is not working well, which is the main reason why the rest won't be working well. So there's these 4 elements to food processing, which is digestion, absorption, utilization, and elimination. These 4 need to work for you to be healthy. If you're sitting in a place where you're very skinny, it means you're malnutrified. You suffer of malnutrition. And you might tell me I'm wrong because you're eating all these healthy foods and you've got all these power of superfoods and that it's impossible that you're malnutritioned. And I would have agreed with you if I didn't understand that if your digestion is not working optimally, it is not delivering the nutrients to the body successfully. Even if your digestion is working optimally, but you're sitting with a small intestine that is congested and weak and are not able to absorb this food into the system, you are not getting it. Your nutrition is actually leaving via your colon. And if you still have digestion absorption that's working well, but you're sitting with extremely low adrenals and thyroid and parathyroid, there's not enough enzymes in your body to actually utilize the nutrition into the cells. So like I explained before, the blood will bring the food towards the cells, but because there's not enough of these enzymes, the cell can't pull these nutrients into its own constituency. And this will then render you malnutritioned. So this is the way to pick up weight, is to restore your food processing processes. How do you do this? You focus on radical cellular regeneration. You focus on cellular regeneration. The radical part comes in when you do it with using fruits. You can use vegetables. You will recover to a certain degree, but you won't fully detoxify, which will stop the full healing of setting in. So there's really actually only one way that I understand true healing, cellular regeneration to happen, and this is when you embark on a fruit-only diet for an extended period of time until you can feel and see in your iris and that do whatever tests you want to do to make sure that your body is restored. Then a strong body can almost deal with any kind of foods. You probably just won't use it as frequently as you used it before, and you'll use it in a much cleverer way, combining it better and eating it at the right time without combining it with the wrong foods. These kind of technicalities that you learn on the detox and that you then can apply in your lifestyle changes that you want to bring around. So if you want to heal those food processing, if you're underweight, you need to restore that food processing by embarking on a cellular regeneration program. So everything I've mentioned here is cascading effects of the body breaking down, and the body can only break down because of two things, well, maybe three. Genetic weakness would be one that can be regenerated. You can restore genetic weaknesses, but if it's present and it's not regenerated, it is definitely one of the reasons your body will experience breakdown. Secondly, is if you suffer of interstitial acidosis, if your diet consists of 95% acid ash forming food that instigates an acid digestive process, now you're building an acid body instead of an alkaline body. And like we said before, everything on this planet seems to flourish when it's a 80% alkaline, 20% acid relationship. So you need to look at then providing your body with at least 80% alkaline ash forming food, and these food also only instigated the alkaline digestive process and not the acidic digestive process, so it's not adding more acids to the problem. And then the third reason that our body breaks down is toxins. So this would include your external toxins, especially in the city. There's a lot of aerial pollution, water pollution, soil pollution happening, electromagnetic frequency pollution happening. All of these very detrimental for biological life. And then you get the internal ones like parasites, heavy metal deposits, chemical deposits, nanoparticles. These are all things that then also damage your body on the inside. Also things like overdose of iodine when you have to do a CAT scan, X-rays, all of these are also damaging to biological health or biological life, which your cells is, and then contribute to the breakdown of the body. So how do you fix this? You ensure that you alkalize so that your elimination organs can start functioning again. You make sure that you are able to drain your lymphatic fluid via your kidneys or your skin. You need to make sure this is healing 101, getting that elimination channels open, and you can only do this when you alkalize. Then you make sure you detoxify. You make use of herbs to help you to get rid of parasites, help you to get rid of heavy metals, chemical deposits, nanoparticles, micro and macro parasites. And then you energize. You make sure that you choose food that has a high level of energy. You need to look at the energy of food, which is not calories, guys. Calories works like this. They take a piece of food, say broccoli, and they burn it, they combust it, and then they weigh the ash, and that equals the calories. So according to them, that's the energy of food, which has no scientific foundation for the human body, because we don't combust our food. We've got a chemical breakdown process of food, either alkaline, which is in the saliva glands. The enzymes in the saliva is breaking down all your simple structured food, which is your live plants, most fruits and vegetables. And then you've got your acidic digestive process, which is when you eat complex structures. This includes your meat, dairy, complex sugars, complex oils, complex fats, your starches, your dormant food. Sorry, that was just... Oh, it's still recording. Wonderful. Sorry, that was just the power that went. Eskom is still with us or without us, depending where we are right now. So complex structured food, this also includes your dormant food plants, like your beans, legumes, grains, seeds and nuts in their dormant form. They're all complex structure. So there's place for complex structured food up to 20% in your body. So yes, you can do nuts and seeds. Don't combine them with your fruits now, because now the fruits are going to ferment, and these guys are going to be digested by their acids. Why does it ferment? Because the moment you combine food, the alkaline digestive process will start in the mouth, but as the complex structures in your food hit the stomach, acids now are instigated, and these acids nullify the alkaline enzymes, and then renders the plant material to non-digestive material. So now they're lying there in the stomach, they're not being digested, they're either being burnt by the acids, which does not render them it doesn't help them to break down into their nutritions that helps the body. It just burns them dead. Or they ferment, which creates sugar and alcohol, and the fungi has to deal with it because your body can't deal with fermentation. So you're really losing out on a lot of nutrients if you don't combine your food well. So yeah, I've spoken into most of the things I wanted to speak into. I hope you guys had fun listening to all of this and it made sense to you. For everyone that's on the current detox, for who I made this video, I am so happy to have you with me going through this healing process. I hope this helps for you to see where you are at and what kind of conditions you're sitting with and how you can focus on different parts of the body if you need to replenish your cells and to regenerate. And those that haven't done a detox with me yet, please do check out the website. In the description I've listed it, the detoxes are listed there. Have a look what resonates with you. We've got an entry-level 28-day detox that really is the space where online I teach you everything I believe you need to know to get your fundamentals in place so that you can make informed decisions and keep space for yourself as you go through the healing events, which happens when you start switching to the food that was meant for man. We are a frugivorous species. There's no two ways about it. We look exactly like frugivores. Our system, our anatomy are exactly like that of the frugivores. So every time we eat something outside of our diet, we can expect some damage to enter into our system. And if we're completely reliant on foods that is not meant for us, we will eat ourselves to death and not experience a high quality life while we walk in this planet. This is Elaine, your detox coach. Thank you for listening. Until next time. Bye.